Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel and welcome to the final match preview of 2024. It's a bit scary when you think of that. It feels like it was just starting yesterday. Nonetheless, welcome. It's time to talk about Celtic versus St Johnstone as we wrap up the year. And what a year it's been for Celtic. As simple as that. Can't wait for 2025. If you haven't already, please go down below, hit like and subscribe. It would be much appreciated. I guess the aim for 2025 is 50,000 subscribers. Let's try and do it as quickly as we can. We're almost at 48,000 the way things are going. So please keep up that great support by going down below, hitting both of those buttons. And let's do this one last time in 2024, shall we? So what a year it's been, and what a way to go out with another home game at Celtic Park to continue what has been a magnificent start to the league season. Let's be real, we're at the halfway point. We've got a derby on Thursday, but before all of that, we've got to keep our concentration set on St Johnstone, who will offer a difficult challenge. However, I did just want to take a look back on what has been an absolutely magnificent year for Celtic. We spoke about this on the live stream last night, and it only dawned on me as we were doing the stream live there in person that Celtic have been pretty near invincible in this full calendar year. In fact, some people have went and done the research for us. I seen Hamish put up a great tweet about it this morning. This is technically Celtic's best year in ever, essentially. We have lost 2 games across four competitions in the full calendar year. And if you compare that to years gone by where we've maybe lost 6 or 7, sometimes double digits in games, but across the league, the cups and European football, to have lost 2 games before St Johnstone in the entire calendar year is unbelievable. And quite frankly, we're not talking about that enough. Here is the fixtures throughout the year. October, as you see, pretty good. Dropped a couple of points in Europe, but is what it is. Beating Leipzig 3-1. The month before that, one of our only losses in the calendar year, the embarrassing 7-1 to Dortmund. Nonetheless, we picked ourselves up with a great point at Atalanta. Of course, the massive win over Slovan Bratislava. And the league season just kept going nicely. You go into the months before that, where we beat Rangers 3-0 at Celtic Park. Embarrassed them. We started the league campaign with a 4-0 win. Even in friendlies, for goodness sake, we couldn't be beaten. We were beating Chelsea and Manchester City, and then the tail end of last year, that's when we started really picking up the form that we're seeing now. There is the only other loss of the calendar year. It was that 2-0 game at Tynecastle, which was mired by controversy. Remember the Yang red card? If you go into it, it was a dark day. Yang got the red card. Hearts were given a couple of penalties. It was a dodgy one, but nonetheless, what I'll say is, we haven't spoke about it enough. We haven't given Brendan Rodgers near enough credit for the job that he has done this season, I think, as a support. We've been so quick to jump and say, oh, we're being boring at times, oh, things are going downhill, when we have lost 2 games in the calendar year. And I'm going to go ahead and say it, we shouldn't be losing tomorrow against St Johnstone. If we do, that's a monumental slip-up. We're 12 points clear at the top of the league. We've got a League Cup in the bag. We won the Scottish Cup. We're doing so well in Europe. This has been one of the greatest years to be a Celtic supporter in my entire life, if not the greatest. And it just shows you how fickle a support we are when we have people coming online and going, oh, we're not good enough. Oh boy, it's never going to get better than this. So you may as well tap out now if you think it can. So, the job is finish off the year on a high tomorrow, go into this derby at Ibrox on Thursday in high spirits and with high momentum as possible, and start 2025 off with a bang. This is it now. It's just about finishing off the year in style and taking it into the new year. I've been delighted. What a year it's been. I've enjoyed my festive period, if you cannot tell. Ready to do it all again. Another year on YouTube. Where have the times gone? As I record this video, we still haven't had a press conference from Brendan Rodgers to confirm any details surrounding fitness or injury issues. I assume they will be much the same as what they were for our Boxing Day game against Motherwell. Of course, Alistair Johnson still out with a slight hip injury. Hopefully Brendan Rodgers brings us some good news by the time this video is uploaded. However, I still wouldn't expect to see him start the game tomorrow. I just think it's a risk that's unnecessary when you've got Rangers ahead of us on Thursday. James Forrest, of course, out for a number of weeks. We won't see him back until maybe February. Odin Thiago Holm, who doesn't get a game anyway. But this squad is pretty much the squad that you will see mostly. for the game tomorrow. On that note, here is my starting 11 prediction. This was a tough one, I think, to nail down in 11. To come up with a team that I think Brendan Rodgers will play tomorrow, because there's so many things that you've got to consider here. You've got to consider the derby on Thursday, which means you want to give the right players the run out. You've got to consider the fact we have been playing so much football and people will need a wee rest, and form. There's so many different things to consider. I don't think it's simple or easy to pick an 11 for tomorrow's game. The last time I said that, I managed to get 11 out of 11. Will that happen again? Absolutely not, because I have no confidence that this is the team that Brendan Rodgers will go for. Nonetheless, it's the team that I think we could see tomorrow. Schmeichel in goals, of course. Ralston, Vickers, Trusty and Taylor. Now, why Trusty over Scales? I just think that with the derby coming up, I think that Rodgers will play Vickers and Trusty in the derby. And because of that, I think he'll want them to play together again at the weekend, because Scales has started the last game or two. I think having Trusty back in is probably the move ahead of the derby game, and I think 60-70 minutes in we'll see Scales come on to finish the game in place of one of the two. I just have a feeling that's what's going to happen. It's not, I'm saying necessarily what I want to happen. I think Scales has been really, really good in recent games, but Trusty seems to be Rodgers' first choice when it comes to the partner for Vickers, so I think he'll come back in. Midfield free, I have no idea. Will he bench Rio Hatate 2 games in a row? I can't see it, but at the same time, I think it's the perfect opportunity to allow Luke McCowan to come in and get a start, because he's not going to start in the derby. McGregor feels like a nail on every week, so he's the captain at the end of the day. I think he's the first name in the team sheet. I think McGregor and Engels are certainties for me. Just the fact that Engels picking up a wee bit of form, his confidence seems to be coming back. I wouldn't like to see Brendan Rodgers put him back in the bench, because he's doing much better and he's getting into the rhythm of things, so I wouldn't want to disrupt that. Once again, only needs 60 or 65 minutes I think in the game, but let him keep going with how well he's been playing ahead of this derby, because we spent £11 million on him at the end of the day. He should be playing in these derbies. So I think Engels and McGregor are stick-ons for me. It's just whether or not Hatate comes back in. And Christ, even Paulo Bernardo could start the game against St Johnstone tomorrow. But I've gone for McCowan. I've gone a wee bit left field. I could just see him coming back into the team. And then for the front three, I have gone for Kuhn, Maeda and Kyogo. A lot of people might be saying, well, Kuhn's been in and out with fitness issues, and will he risk him ahead of the derby? I just think that the Yang project is well and truly over, and even if Kuhn only has to play 45 minutes to get us in a good position come half-time, it's more than enough. He's just not even in the same league as Yang, is he? He's Premier League, and Yang's a long way to catching up there. I can see Kuhn coming back in and starting getting that match sharpness in him, and I think Kyogo will come back into the starting 11 for Adam Ida. So I think it's a really, really hard team to predict, but this is the one I've went for. I think that we'll all have different teams in the comments sections. It's that difficult at this point of the year, but nonetheless, there's mine. We all know the script by now. It's Celtic Park. We are taking on the side who are currently bottom of the league table. So, yeah, there really should be no struggles tomorrow. There really should be no excuses tomorrow. And last time we played them at McDiarmid Park, we battered them. So, same again, Celtic. That will do. That's all that needs to be said. And just before we wrap up today's video, I should give you the update on Cameron Carter-Vickers following that story that broke late last night that Bayer Leverkusen, the German champions, are interested in his services. Well, Larry Henry Jr., who reported that last night, did give us another update, a further update on the situation, which will bring a lot more reassurance to Celtic fans. This was his update on it late last night, I should say, that Celtic and USA defender Cameron Carter-Vickers is an option for Bayer Leverkusen. It's been confirmed by multiple sources. However, it is just interest. No offer has been made. Cameron Carter-Vickers still has high aspirations to get back to the English Premier League. And then the more important point, I think, and the one that will give even more reassurance, is that his main focus remains on Celtic, though, and continuing to help the club get to more success. One trophy in the bag this season, and still free up for grabs. So basically, affirming what I said last night, in this stream, that this is something that in January I don't expect to materialise, but certainly will be a legitimate interest in the player. Yeah, he's going to have a job to commit to Celtic with this big contract. We've done so much for him. He's done so much for us. I wouldn't see him out here in a hurry in January. I don't think he sees himself out here in a hurry in January. we're in a good position when it comes to Cameron Carter-Vickers. He's contracted to the summer of 2029, so even at the end of this season, he's still got 4 more years on that deal. I know a lot of people were giving it the whole, oh, it's before a derby and the interest. It's natural. It always happens. They try and shake up something before we take on Rangers. But once again, it's not all. I've got to just reiterate this point because so many people love to live in denial about these things. Trust me. This isn't bollocks, and it hasn't happened because it's before a derby. Larry Henry Jr. is an American journalist who has no care whatsoever what happens in the Scottish Premiership this weekend, this week. He's not a Celtic fan, he's not a Rangers fan, he doesn't have any affiliations with the Premiership. He's an American journalist, and believe it or not, Cameron Carter-Vickers is a USA international. Larry Henry Jr. is also the guy who reported Celtic's initial loan signing, his permanent signing, and his contract extension at the club. There will be legitimacy in this story that Leverkusen have interest, but he's basically told you don't worry about it for January because it doesn't look as though he's going anywhere anytime soon. Sometimes you've just got to admit that players will be or teams will be interested in your best players. It's not always just because there's a derby coming up. I don't like to be that negative guy or anything like that, but it's just the truth. Right, that does it for today. If you have enjoyed, please hit like, subscribe. It is much appreciated. I will see you all tomorrow for the match reaction as we finish up on 2024. But until then, take care of yourselves. God bless, and I'll see you all next time.